Peace, power, and prosperity. Peace, power, and prosperity. It's your comrade, your brother, Yafael Balagoon, street reporter. And I have a good one tonight. We have a good one tonight. Of course, we're joined by our co-host, Eric Caffrey. And additionally, we have, a legend on the line here today. And I'm glad that he took the opportunity to come out and have a conversation with us, more of a mental diatribe, so to speak. I speak of none other than Comrade Bunchy from Houston, Texas. I know he resides in Houston. Obviously, I know he has a whole history that we would like for him to share with us. And so I just want to say, first and foremost, we definitely do appreciate you, Bunchy, for joining us today. And also, just for folks that may see this and may hear this, please like, share, subscribe to my channel. It'll be very much so appreciated. We're just trying to get the message out. Powerful comrades like Bunchy, we have to be able to get their message, take heed of their teachings, because like I said, folks are transitioning, and so we want to make sure that we have the opportunity to learn from them while they're here. So, if I may ask you, Bunchy, um, sir, how are you feeling today?
So I'm feeling great. I can great health. Uh, I went to the doctor last week. All my blood came back good. I said my kidney is
Mhm.
great, and I work every day. I'm 73, so I'm blessed that I don't take any medication, and so yeah, I'm doing good.
Gotcha. So, a quick question, and like I said, if I get any of these facts wrong, feel free to correct me. Okay. Um, are you originally from Houston?
Yeah, I was born in Houston, Texas, and March 24th, 1952. I have a twin sister, and I was born in Fifth Ward, Texas,
Okay.
and at St. Elizabeth Hospital. I was on Lyons Avenue,
Mhm.
and but then we moved to Los Angeles after my third grade. I was about 9. We moved to Los Angeles, and so from fourth grade all the way through, I did 1 year in college. I joined the Black Panther Party after my year in college. But yeah,
Mm. So interesting that you say so. Of course, you were a member of the Black Panther Party and alumni, of course. And so you say that you moved there at a very young age. So
right.
what city was it that you officially joined the Black Panther Party in?
Well, I joined People's Party 2 here in Houston, but I did community work in LA.
Okay.
So when I came here, and I'll tell you a quick story right quick. So for one thing, when I was in high school, I mean, things going, we were very active. Uh, the school I went to was 80% white, and it was mainly Jewish. But
Hmm.
in fact, somebody posted an article the other day about Fremont High School when they walked out, which was a black school on the east side of Los Angeles.
Hmm.
So we walked out in support of Fremont, not just the black students, all the white students. We walked out, stood in front of the uh, school, and we supported Fremont, but we also had our own demands. Uh, we demanded that they eliminate the dress code, that women could wear pants because women couldn't wear pants,
Mm.
and that we could wear shorts, we could wear sandals, we could grow our hair, and we wanted a Black Studies program.
Right.
So, like I said, the first day we walked out, we stood in front of the school. The next day we went in and took over the rotunda, and that's when they called the police. And but we got all our demands, and then a year later we walked out on Martin Luther King's birthday.
Hmm.
Uh, we demanded that they have some type of program uh, in honor of Martin Luther King. And I never forget the principal, this white guy, Mr. Sanders, redhead, and he came out. He was pleading for us to come back in school. You know, he started crying. He had tears in his eyes. So finally, he said, "Well, if cause we said no, we're not coming back in." And so finally, he said, "Well, I tell you what, we'll all go into the auditorium and we have a program for Martin Luther King." So when I graduated from high school, I went to Cal State Northridge, which is in the San Fernando Valley outside of Los Angeles. And I remember two friends of mine told me they were going to a political education class. And another thing in high school, when they raided the office on 41st and Central, the Panther office, me and my friends, we did school to go to the rallies and all that stuff. So when I got to college, I had two friends said, well, they were going to a political education class in LA on 54th Street. And I said, yeah, I'll come with you. So we went in, they had the class. And afterwards, I'll never forget they said they offered us dinner and stuff. And we were like, we said no at first, but we think, man, these brothers and sisters, they struggling, they out here every day working hard for the people, but they
Right.
insisted we eat. So what I started doing was going downtown Los Angeles with a brother named James Palms and selling the Black Panther Party newspaper downtown. And
Hmm.
so that's just a simple act, but that's to show you how COINTELPRO worked. I was home one weekend and I'm in my bedroom. My mother comes in there and she says, Ricky, that's my family nickname. But my name is John Richard Creel. They take Ricky from Richard. And
Right.
she said, it's two white gentlemen in the living room. They from the FBI. So I told her, Mom, don't be playing with me like that. Stop playing. She said, no, I'm serious. I'm not playing. There's two white gentlemen in there. They from the FBI. They want to talk to you. So I went in, and sure enough, there they were, the men in black, had their little leather pouches with the badges in it. And so when I sat down, the first question they asked me was, I remember the Black Panther Party. I told them no, because I was 19-year-old college student, 18-year-old college student. And so then he put out this big, thick binder, had all these pictures in it. They started going through and go, well, do you know this person? Do you know that person, that person? So really what made me proud of my mother told them, well, hold up, y'all asking all these questions. She said, I got a question for you. And they said,
Mm.
okay. She said that J. Edgar Hoover said the Black Panther Party is the greatest internal threat to the United States in the history of the United States. So she said, well, what about the mafia? And so they kind of backed up and they played a little salt and pepper thing. One of them said, well, ma'am, Panthers, they do all these good things. They got breakfast programs and they got free health clinics. And then the other one chimed in, but ma'am, you see, when they start talking about this violence, you know, the violence. So what really pissed me off and really pushed me a little closer to joining the party when they left, they said, well, John, if you stay in school, graduate from school, get you a good job, you'll never hear from us again. And so I'm thinking in my head, these motherfuckers trying to tell me how to live my life. If,
Right.
if, if I stay on this straight and narrow path, then I'll be all right. So they kind of really pushed me that way. And then what happened, how I joined Peace Part 2 in Houston, my grandmother was sick.
Hmm.
And and she eventually passed. So I was down. So anywhere I went, like when I went to Vegas, I looked for a Panther office and they found one. So while I was here, I was looking for a Panther office. I was driving down Darling and I saw this sign that said People's Party 2, but it had two Panthers on each side of the sign.
What what
So I
what part
stopped.
of what part of Houston was that? Third ward, fifth ward? What part of
Yeah,
Houston was that
yeah,
in?
Third Ward. Yeah, on Darling Street, Third Ward.
Okay.
That's where Carl was. He had uh, yeah, he established a party in Third Ward.
Okay.
And so I went in and we started hanging out together and everything. And so I ended up staying and joining the party here in Houston.
Mm. Mm. Interesting. 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 So, one thing I did mention that I know we've kind of talked about privately, and I just thought about it was your, correct me if I'm wrong, if it was your father, your grandfather, correct me if I'm wrong, one of the two I know was a doctor. Is that, am I right?
Yeah, that's my father. That's why we moved to Los Angeles because he went to medical school at University of California, Irvine.
Hmm.
In fact, he was the first black that graduated from there.
Mm.
So that's how we wound up in LA at first. And the whole thing was at first, once he graduated and once he became that, we were gonna move back to Houston. But everybody fell in love with Los Angeles because
Ah.
it was a whole different atmosphere. I mean, you got racism there, but it wasn't like down here. You know,
Mm.
you could go when you want to go. You could dress. You didn't have to get dressed up to go out to eat. The beach and was right there. Just like you got to drive 45 in Los Angeles. The beach is right there. You know, so everybody fell in love with Los Angeles. So we ended up staying.
Right.
And
Well, let me ask you this question. Being that your father, went all that and went to medical school and whatnot, um, what did he think about you joining the People's Party? The Black Panther Party, etc. What was his thoughts about you
well, the
joining the
thing about it,
organization?
like people ask me, because a lot of times I tell people it's a sign of time. But see, I had two parents. My mother was a teacher.
Okay.
You know, in fact, I was traveling with somebody. I took one of our comrades, Claude Frost, passed away, and I
Hmm.
took him up to. He wanted to go up to where he had his last family up in Texarkana,
Hmm.
and one of his friends rode with me, and I was like, I knew him, but I. So anyway, and he was like, I don't understand. Your father was a doctor and your mother was a teacher. How the fuck you became a Black Panther? You know, but because they were socially conscious and they did stuff in the community. you know.
Right.
And so, of course, it's just like my mother. I'll go back to high school. I used to wear a black beret, you
Right.
know. And so my mother told me she wanted me to stop wearing that. She said, not because she didn't believe what the Black Panther Party was doing. She said she believes in everything the Black Panthers were talking about, but she didn't want me to get hurt.
Right.
That's the mother's instinct. And so what I would do, I'd hide it and then I put it on when I got to school.
Right.
So, so one day she found it and she cut it up. So the thing about it, of course, he didn't want me to join the Black Panther Party, but
Right.
he always supported me. And my mother always supported. Both of them came up to Oakland. See, got transferred up to Oakland in 1972 during the campaign for Bobby Seale Lane. But both of them came up to Oakland and visited me at different times, you know.
Gotcha.
And they always supported me, but just like any parent, they worried about you. They see all the stuff going on, Panthers getting killed, jailed, and all that stuff, you
Right.
know. So they always supported me, but they really didn't want me to be there.
Right, right. Well, since you mentioned that, I thank you for doing that, especially talking about your family. You did mention Carl Hampton
Hmm.
briefly just a moment ago, and what
Right,
stuck out to me just I noticed over the last few days that there was some commemoration events for Carl Hampton, and I want to
right.
tell some of my comrades that's just jumped on the line, Eric Caffrey, Sister Soldier, State of V, whatnot, that it is my desire that in the near future, preferably this next following year, if we're granted the opportunity to consider traveling to Houston together and support the commemoration of Carl Hampton. I think that'll be beautiful. Um, but if you could, if you can just tell us who Carl Hampton was and what was his contribution to the city of Houston and also just this revolutionary process in general.
Well, Carl grew up. A lot of his re- lot, when he's a lot of his recruits came from Pleasantville and Clinton Park, which Pleasantville was like they considered like back then. You talk about in the '50s, a black suburb. Now it wasn't no freeways that went out there, and it's really not that far, but that was one of the first black communities that wasn't part of the ward system, Third Ward, Fifth Ward, and
Mm,
Fourth Ward, the whole thing. And so that's where he grew up, and he was a musician, professional musician, and him and his band they traveled the country. And so when they got to Los Angeles, he became familiar with the Black Panther Party, and he started doing community work while he was there in L.A. And
mm,
so when they got up to Oakland, he asked could he start a chapter in Houston. And at the time, that party had expanded so fast, it was over 40 chapters, thousands of members, 3,000 members, and they put it to a stop because they, you spent they didn't know who everybody was. They had to. So they told him that not at the time were they ready to, expand to Houston. So Carl was so determined that he came back to Houston and he got him a job at there used to be a Sears on, and this is all in 30, Sears on Wheeler Street. They had a lunch counter, and he got him a job. He worked at the lunch counter, saved his money up, and rented a building on the corner of 2M and Dowling, and he found it People's Party 2. And the reason he called it People's Party 2 because he said the Black Panther Party was the vanguard party. That was the number
Mm,
one. That was the number one party.
mm,
So uh, he had recruits from all over. They had the building, and really they had been there for a minute. And really, the police didn't pay him no attention until they started selling the Black Panther Party newspaper.
mm,
And so one day, Carl was coming back to the office, and the police was harassing uh, one of the comrades. So Carl went over and asked the police what was going on, and he had a 45 strapped to his chest. And the first thing the policeman said, "What are you doing with that guns?" And Carl told him he had the constitutional right, state constitutional right to bear arms. And so the policeman started walking up on him. He told him to stay back. Well, the policeman went to pull his gun, and Carl was a little faster and outdrew him. So Carl and the comrades they backed up into the office, and people was watching this because and so the police called for backup, but by the time the backup word got around the neighborhood, there's people standing all in front of the office. Hey, y'all not gonna mess with these brothers. So they charged him with aggravated assault or whatever, but he refused to turn himself in. So at that time, between Elgin and McGowan, so that's probably about 5 block strip of Dowling Street. Dowling was like a main drag. You had businesses all up and down there, and cafes and stuff. So for about a week, you didn't see no police presence coming down Dowling. Because see, cause one thing I've done, black people came from all over the city, all the black communities, uh, Sunnyside, Acreage Homes, Pleasantville, Clinton Park, it, all over came down there with their guns, and they were down there every day, protecting the office and protecting Carl. And so on July 25th, Carl was speaking at Emancipation Park, which was really right across the street from the office, and some people told him it was some white people on the roof of St. John's Church. And St. John's is the tallest building over. It's real tall. It's got a flat roof up there. So Carl and this white brother, Barty Hill, he was a member of the John Brown Revolutionary Society. They walked down there to see what was going on. So they was across the street, standing side of this place called Wolf's. It was Wolf's department store and pawn shop. And then when they stepped out to walk across, snipers. It was snipers up on the roof. That's what they told Carter. It was 3 white men on the roof of the church. Well, see, it was 2 snipers and 1 reporter. The reporter was a spotter because he had interviewed Carl about 2 days before that, and so he was on the roof with the police. And so as soon as Carl went, he told him, "Hey, there he is, right there. That's him right there." So they opened fire. So they shot Bounty Hill in the shoulder, shot Carl in the abdomen, and it was a sister that was a prostitute. She brave. She came up in her Volkswagen and she put Carl in her car and drove him to the hospital. And he survived for a few hours and he passed away on July 26th. And it was all planned because they had busloads of police all around the perimeter. And so once that happened, they came in, swooped in. They arrested about 60 people. In fact, they arrested Congressman Mickey Leland because him and Carl were real tight. They were friends. They used to study together. They should, they were real tight friends. So Mickey Leland came down to see what's going on, and they arrested him. So, it was all planned. It was all set up. and then our comrade James Aaron, Claude Frost, Charles Local Freeman, Piccadilly, and some others. They stuck together afterwards. Because, with the police, just like Fred Hampton said, you can kill a revolutionary, but you can't kill a revolution. So they all stuck together. They backed up a little bit, and they kept the party alive. And James became the chairman of People's Party too.
Interesting thing that you stated. So I've been hearing about. I guess the brother's name is Charles Boko Freeman,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
His daughter lives in Dallas. Erica.
Dusha.
Yeah,
Okay, okay. I know that he. Correct me if I'm wrong here. That he was an artist.
right, right.
And he did a number of artwork and some, very influential brother. Um,
Well,
after
he's one of the ones that really kept the spirit of Carl alive as far as because we do something every year.
got you.
And one thing about it this year, I appreciate a lot of young folks stepped up because we getting old. I'm 73. You
Hmm.
know, I'm still out there, but I can't do all the things I used to do.
Right.
So I was really proud this year. A lot of the young folks, the Huey P Gun Club stepped up. Uh, young folks from the National Black United Front stepped up. So a lot of young folks stepped up to make everything a success this year. So I was really happy about that. Because just
Hmm.
like Huey P. Newton said, the youth of the revolution, you know.
Got you. Got you. Tell me this, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I could have it wrong, Bunchy. Um, you were a photographer, or is a photographer. You've been a photographer, right? Correct.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing about the party, you did all kinds of things.
Right.
Here in Houston, one of my main assignments, because we all sold the paper, but one of
Hmm.
my main assignments, because we said if you do business in the black community, you have to give back to the community. So one of my assignments was to go around to different businesses
Hmm.
and collect donations for the free breakfast program.
Okay.
You didn't have to give money. Like if some stores might give a case of eggs, case of orange juice, case of milk. Stores that weren't groceries, some then they gave money.
Hmm.
So that was one of my signs here. So when I got up to Oakland, I was doing the campaign, and see, because that was my major in high school was photography,
Okay.
and but I really hadn't. So when I got up there, I didn't go first at because, like I said, we did all kind of things. So we had this theater called the Fox Theater that this white boy, I shouldn't call him boy, but this white man, he uh he owned like 25 theaters, drive-in theaters, and so he let us run that theater, and money went to the party. And so
Hmm.
I was working down there, and John Seale, Bobby Seale's brother, was over the theater, and I was his assistant.
Okay.
And I was having a good time down there. So then John Seale came in one day, because Erica Huggins was one of the editors at the paper,
Hmm.
and he said that Erica wants you to be in photography. And I said, no, no, man, tell her I don't want to be in photography. Tell her, I don't want to be in photography. So about 3 days later, he comes, he said, well, Erica talked to Huey, you in photography. And so, and really became a good thing because it was during the campaign. So every day I rode around with Bobby Seale. My comrade Melanie King, she was a head of photography at that time. I became a head later, and she rode with in Elaine's car, and I rode with Bobby. So me and Bobby became kind of close. We talk all the time, and 'cause a lot of people say that like they in awe. I was just talking to a comrade now. Yeah, that nigga 6'7". He told me every time he get around Eric or Elaine, he's in awe. They just regular people, you know.
Right.
And just like with Bobby, should we sit around the table just talking? He asked me questions. What do you think this? You think that? So we became. So yes, I was in photography then, and you travel with it was during the campaign, and since that's what I'm saying. A lot of people need to get back to some grassroots organizing. Social media is fine because it gets out there, but looks like you go to different meetings or presentations, it be the same damn people because
Hmm.
they just in your circle, you know.
Right.
you got to get back out there. I mean, just like in the campaign, we used to get up in the morning and we go on East 14th. East 14th ran from all the way maybe from 130th all the way straight to downtown. And so we get up in the morning and we get on the first bus, first conference. We get out handing out literature, and then person from the writing staff would get on with a tape recorder. Then I'd get on, photography would get on, then Bobby and Elaine would get on, and Bobby would get on, hey, I'm Bobby Seale, this is Elaine Brown, I'm running for mayor, she's going to run, and he'd do his spiel, then we get off the bus and we catch the next bus, all the way
Right.
down to downtown, you know. So, I mean, to me, it's still important to touch people, to look at them, so they can see who you really are, instead of just giving them, stuff on Facebook and stuff. But yeah, so
Right.
that was a day, and then it was a long day because so then you had campaign events going on day long, and then back then, see, we didn't have no digital cameras where you just pop it on or whatever. We had to go develop the film first. You had to go in the dark room. You put the film in these metal canisters, and you had to develop that. Then you had to let them hang up and dry, and then once they hung up and dry, you had to cut them into uh, about 6 pictures at a time. You put them in a sleeve, and then you would make a proof sheet where you could look at them and see what you got. So then we would take the proof sheets because you know every we all worked out of central headquarters. So photography was on one side of the hall. You walked to the other side of the hall was where they laid out the paper, where the artists were, and then you had a room where all the writers were. So you took the proof sheets over there, and they go over them. They say, okay, we want this picture, that picture, this picture. So then you had to go back in the dark room, hit them and develop, and you put them in a liquid, and you had to hang that stuff up and dry. So it was a long day, you know. And so then after the campaign, I got a phone call from Bobby's secretary, Chairman Bobby's secretary, and she said the chairman want to talk to you. So I'm heading up there. I'm wondering what he wants. So he wanted me to be his driver, because at that time Valentine Hobbs was his aide. But but I drove him anytime we would go to a rally or any event like that. And then Valentine left, and I became his full time aide. I stayed in the house. Everywhere he went, I went. Until the time he left. He left in 1974.
What time, if you don't mind me asking, what time frames would you say? Because he ran for mayor. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, that was 72, 73.
Okay. Okay. So from that time to you say to 78,
No, no, Bobby Seale left in 1974.
74. Okay, 74. Okay. Gotcha. 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 Let me ask either Eric, Steady V, or Sister Soldier. Do any one of you three have a question? Okay. Okay. Go ahead. So you want to say something, Sister Soldier or Eric? Both of
No,
y'all
I was
came out
just
here.
gonna say we appreciate all the work that he's done. I don't really
Okay.
have anything.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay. Gotcha. 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 So at the same time that Chairman Bobby Seale ran for mayor, was it was it Elaine Brown that was running for city council, or was it Erica Huggins?
Right, right.
It was Elaine
Lane
Brown.
Brown. And see, the thing about it is,
Mhm.
we shocked the world because the mayor was a three-time mayor. He had never been in a runoff, and we forced a runoff. And in the runoff we got 42% of the vote, and we shocked the world. These Black Panthers, they got that many people supporting them. So
Right,
it was, because we didn't think we was going. You know what I mean?
right,
And that's one thing. That's one of the things we have. I be sitting in the kitchen because see, during the day we'd stop at different people's house that were supporters, and have lunch or whatever and chill out. And I remember we sitting there at the table. And he asked me, this is after uh, the primary. This was during a runoff,
Okay.
and I remember he asked me if I thought we could win. I said, yeah, yeah, we can win. He said, really, you think we can win? I said, yeah. But yeah, we gave them a run for their money. But
Gotcha.
that's the thing is, Greg, we had 9 officers, campaign officers, all around the city.
Okay.
Like I said, this is Buster. We knocked on doors, stood in front of stores. You reach out to the people.
Right.
You know, and uh, I mean, we had, I mean, we had a, I mean, you can call it a parade. Wasn't a parade with bands, but it was cars. Shit, about excuse the language, but maybe about 50 cars. We left from downtown and drove all the way up East 14th. And people waving and pumping their fists, and so that's how you organize. You got to reach the people.
Gotta
You
reach
got
the
to touch.
people.
You got to touch the people, because that's the one thing the survival programs
Mhm.
did for us is save us. Because that crazy ass Elder Creever running around talking about off the pig, everybody. That's not, see, when if you ever watched the Vanguard movie and Huey Newton expelled him, and he expelled him because they on the phone and he talking part of the business. You don't do that. But he
Right.
was already he was already pissed off at Elders, because he in that same thing he brought up little Bobby Hutton, who was the youngest member to join at 16. He was one of the founding members, first members, and he got killed at 17 because when they passed the Mumford Act, that's when they went to Sacramento to protest. But when they passed the Mumford Act saying that you cannot carry arms on the street, Bobby and Huey said, "Y'all put the guns away." And even on we never gave up our guns. Believe we had plenty of guns, but not so. Elders convinced David Hilliard and them. They going out there looking for police with guns, and then they had the incident. Bobby Hutton was killed. David Hilliard, who was supposed to have been in charge, he went to prison behind that shit. And so David Hilliard told me himself. I was talking to him about 4 years ago. I was at his apartment, and he said Huey told him he was pissed off with him because he let Elders take the party away from the direction it was going. You know, And so, really, the program saved us because it brought us closer to people, and people saw us. They say, "These ain't those gangsters and thugs they be talking about on TV. These are regular people." You
Right.
know, and all the programs and things we did. So, in a way, it saved us, and it brought us closer to the people because people could see who we really were. You know,
Absolutely. Absolutely. Interesting. Interesting. So for you, obviously it's the programs that's the key, and obviously you spent a lot of time actually physically knocking on those doors, especially during the
right?
campaigns.
Oh yeah,
Very
right. And
right,
see, the thing
right.
about the party, see, it's so many people, and I tell these youngsters now, you got to get rid of all the rhetoric. Come with it where people can understand all the rhetoric. Because the party, we didn't just talk. Everything we talked about, we did.
Right.
Sickle cell anemia. Sickle cell anemia, the Black Panther Party was the first one that exposed sickle cell. We called it black genocide. It was
Mm,
sprayed all over the front of the paper. But we didn't stop then. That we started testing. We tested thousands because see, it's a separate test for sickle cell. You can't tell just from a normal blood test. And so we tested 1,000 people across this country. In fact, the poster boy we had on our poster for sickle cell, he was like 8 years old, and
oh wow.
he would tell his mom he had pain from time to time. So she took him to two doctors. They told her it was nothing wrong, they could find that was wrong with him. So when he started complaining like that, she would give him a spanking. So she came. We had uh when this is when Bobby Seale announced his campaign. We had this big survival conference where we gave away 10,000 bags of groceries, with chicken every bag. We tested 2,000 people for sickle cell. We registered 4,000 people to vote. But that's when she found out he had sickle cell anemia,
Mm,
and she said she felt bad because she had been spanking him, you know, thinking he was lying, you know. So that's significant. So like I say, anything we talked about, we didn't just talk, we did.
you did. Gotcha, gotcha. So I know one of the comrades, Steady V, had a question. You can If you can hear me steady, V, go ahead and ask your question.
Yes, sir. Can y'all hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah, I wanted to say we appreciate all you done, brother, Elder, and hearing some good stuff, some history that's enlightening me that I haven't heard before. But the question I had was, if you can, looking back, what do you think? Is there anything you would say, you guys, that you would have done differently as far as for the organization and the campaigning, or what would you say?
Well, not necessarily the campaign, and you have to understand too. We were young. Bobby Seale was 28. Huey was 25 when he started the party. I was 25. Like I said, little Bobby Hutton started at 16, and so we was all young. And uh, we made some mistakes, but the main thing is to do it. Because if you do it, if you make a mistake, you can correct it. You know. And so I think, and then one of the things too is I think one of the things that the leadership made when the campaign was going on, they brought all the sharpest people from chapters around the country to run the campaign, like Herman. And see, that's one thing too. About everything we did, it was party members. Campaign chairman for the election was Herman from Philadelphia. Really sharp, one of the best organizers I've ever been around. But they brought the heads of Boston, New Jersey, all these chapters. Well, really was at the expense of those chapters, you know. So, because really toward after the campaign, it might have been. So you still had the Seattle chapter, you had the chapter in Houston, North Carolina, uh, Chicago, and I think that's about it. So everything, because we said this was base, it's like we threw everything in one basket. We said that's the base operation. We're going to show it. And it was a good idea because the thing about it is that campaign, a lot of stuff we talked about, the person that won did, you know. But then also it was a prelude to election the first black mayor of Oakland, Lionel Wilson. Because when the next campaign came up, we threw all our stuff behind Lionel Wilson. He was a judge, good brother, and uh, and he became the first black mayor. Like I said, it was like we threw all our stuff into one basket. This is a base operation. We're going to show. It's like as an example to other places where you could have, socialists run cities and stuff like that. And it was a prelude to a lot of things that happened, but we brought a lot of the best, and they never went back to their chapters, and so I think that was one mistake we made.
Let me ask you this question, if I may, and just correct me if I'm wrong here. I know at some point, maybe about '78 or so, Huey P. Newton called folks back to Oakland, California. From my understanding, uh, what was your personal thoughts on the idea of folks like everybody going back to Oakland? And just correct me if I
Now,
have that
now everybody
wrong.
was there. See, now here he left.
Hmm.
See, Bobby Seale left in '74, and then right after that, that's when Huey left and went to Cuba.
Okay.
Uh, he had been has some charges against him, and he left and went to Cuba. In fact, I was one of the last persons to see him. We took him down to because he got arrested, got to be bonded out, and you got to go to the bond office. Well,
Hmm.
myself and several other convicts took him down to the bond office. That's the first time. That's the last time I saw him. And then in '77, see, I went to Las Vegas and I established a chapter in Las Vegas.
Right.
And so uh, uh, so I was in Vegas because we were trying to go. Like I say, we didn't have as many chapters, and that's when Elaine Brown was the chairwoman, and so she wanted to start expanding again. So she sent me to Las Vegas, like for my dad. See, my dad was he left L.A. in about '66. He went to Las Vegas to practice. He was the second black doctor in the state of Nevada. So, in high school, I go back and forth. I mean, almost every weekend. I drive there to see him from L.A. to Vegas. So I had a lot of friends there. And so, like I said, we did a lot of things. See, one of my assignments, too, was on the weekends, I would take comrades all over the Bay Area, places they'd never been before. Half Moon Bay, places you ain't never heard of. Because I've always been an explorer. I'm a
Mhm.
fine, you know. And then it got to the point where every weekend I take comrades to LA one weekend, Vegas the next weekend to collect donations. And I mean, we would rack it up. So I had a lot
Wow.
of so I had a lot of connections in Vegas. So we were going to expand. So Lang sent me to Vegas and sent Darren Perkins to East St. Louis.
Mm.
And so yeah, we were trying to get back out. I mean, we still had some strong, and plus the Houston chapter by '74, they had been called up to uh, to Oakland,
Okay.
and yeah.
Gotcha. Interesting, interesting. Eric, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I want to backtrack just for a second. After the sabotage and assassination on Carl Hampton, was
Uh,
the People Party too able to still run any programs and services? And if so, what were they?
oh yeah. In fact, we got strong. Like I said, the Conrads backed up for a minute to regroup because I mean you have to realize you see your leaders gunned down in the street like that. You know, see a lot of people looked at that. I mean, you got snipers, and the snipers not a self defense. That's a killer, and they
Mm.
had snipers on the roof. So you have to understand there's something, because a lot of people say, "God damn shit, this shit is real. I got to get out of here." But you had a core. I mean, really, you had
Right.
a core. You had a
Right.
core of strong brothers. I mentioned them earlier, and sister like Ruby Morgan, and they backed up for a minute, regrouped, and then reestablished the office right back down on a dollar, maybe a few doors down from where the original office was.
Right.
So yeah, they kept the core together. And we did everything. We tested for sickle cell. We had a breakfast program. We had a free pest control program. In fact, we got you got a senior fair on Metro. That was a Black Panther Party. We collected a bunch of signatures, took them down to city council and to the Metro board, and they got them to lower the fare for senior citizens. That was a Black Panther Party. A lot of people don't know that. So yeah, we did a lot of things. We gave away as a grocery too. I mean, at Emancipation Park, uh, we gave away 1,000 bags of groceries with chicken in every bag, tested for sickle cell. The same thing they did in Oakland, just on a smaller scale.
Wow. Wow. Okay. Good. This has been very interesting. So, how long have you all been doing the commemoration for Carl Hampton? Like I noticed it like maybe 2 or 3 years ago, but how long have you guys been doing it in
Uh,
the city of Houston?
uh, since the '90s,
Cincinnati.
you know.
Wow. Wow.
And some of them sometimes it's bigger because normally we have a big. Just like in 2010, we had a real nice thing. We had the first night Friday. We had an exhibit from the museum. I don't know if you heard of Billy X. He's like our archivist. But
Right. Yep. Yep.
but so him and Emery, they were down here and we had a museum and Emery had his artwork up and Billy X had all these papers, copies of the newspaper displayed. And we had a program. And then the next day we had a big thing at Emancipation Park. Then across the street from Emancipation Park, we had the old Eldorado Ballroom. We had the display over there, and we had a big thing in the park. And then
Hmm.
Emery's been here twice. That was the first time he was here because Carl was from Pleasantville. We've been in Pleasantville twice and had events. And one time Emory came when we went to Pleasantville.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just like because Kofi. I don't know if you know Kofi Tahaka.
Yeah, Coffee. Yeah, we know Coffee.
Yeah. So Emory was at my house. We all sitting around. He was over here, and Kofi asked him about the incident with Eldridge and Huey on the TV show. And
Right.
like Eldridge, like Emory said, look, Eldridge had Huey's phone number. If he had an issue, he could have called Huey. You don't blast it across public TV. Because just like we got a party line and a mass line. We got a line that we don't nobody know, you know what I mean?
Right.
And then you got a mass line, would you talk about the masses? You don't talk about party business to the masses.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. That's what Envy said. He could have called him on the phone. He got his phone number. And
Mm.
Envy, that's one thing that I never thought about that. One thing Kofi mentioned about Emory, Emory was one of the first members of the party and the last members of the party,
Mm.
because Emory was when they went to the state capitol,
Right.
and Emory was there here all the way to the end, and beautiful brother. Me and him became real close because when I was in photography, photography came up under the Ministry of Culture, and Emory was the Minister of Culture,
Right.
so we became close. In fact, he asked me one day if I wanted to come to his mama's house for it was for dinner on Sunday. What I think? I say, hell yeah, you know.
Right.
And
Right.
so after that, every Sunday, me and Emory would go see his mama. Real sweet, like, good cook, But yeah, we became real close.
Mm. Mm. Interesting. 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 Wow. So that's interesting that you at least I can see how like well let me just say that let me speak for myself after reading the book A Taste for Power, I think by
Mm-hmm. Right.
Elaine Brown, you
Mm-hmm.
kind of it gives you a perspective of kind of the leadership of the party, so to speak.
Right.
And and so it's just interesting how you were able to work professionally in proximity, with those people obviously that we've read
Yeah.
about over the
Thing
years.
about thing about the taste of power is a lot of truth in it, but a lot of untruths. And I know because I'm
Right.
I know because I was there. You know,
Right.
And like I say, anytime somebody came in town, like when Joanna Little, I don't know if you remember Joanna Little, she came, we were up in Lane's apartment, I was there. Anytime or anywhere she went, I was there. So the same thing with Floyd's book. He got a lot of falsehoods in him. His,
Right.
you know.
Right. Right.
'Cause, I hadn't seen Flores in shit 20 some years. When he saw Mama, he said, "Man, you always was my man." We were close. So I know what's true and I know what's not true. You know, because I
Right.
was right there.
Right. Let me ask you this question because a lot of people always wonder. I heard you mention Huey, Huey P. Newton, obviously being around him. Uh, what was his personality like as far as when you were around him? Did
Well,
he have an
he
open?
one
Okay.
thing he was very uh, uh, tough on respect, not just you respect for leadership, but even respect for members of the party. So like anybody in the Central Committee, if you were there and they came in, then you stood up. You didn't have to salute. Shut up. You didn't have to salute, but you stood up out of
Right.
respect. And the thing about Huey, he had a sense of humor. So a lot of pictures you see him, he's smiling, but he was a genius. He's coming like at the lamppost. As a photographer, we had a bar and a restaurant called a lamppost. And so in photography, see, we had to finance our own, like our film and stuff like that. So uh, on Friday and Saturday, we go down there and take the Polaroid pictures for $10. And then you had to sit around and wait on your ride. And You find him at the lamppost lot, or you find him at the school, or you find him at the Child Development Center. But he'd sit around with us and we talk, and a lot of times we talk in parables. But he loved the children. And then the thing about it was, see, now Bobby was somebody you see every day because he was a chairman. Huey, most comers rarely saw him, and because I mean, it was like if Huey showed up somewhere, and when he left, everybody gonna go, "Oh, Huey was here, Huey." But he had a sense of humor, and like I try to, my whole thing is try to tell people we were regular people. We had mothers, fathers, sisters, brothers, cousins. So I remember being Huey's at his parents' house, and me, his mother, and because his dad was an invalid, so we would go over there and help out. And so we all sit in the kitchen, and Huey walked in. His dad said, "Huey, you ain't shit. You ain't never been shit. You ain't gonna never be shit." I'm thinking to myself, damn. If people ask me, well, what did Huey do? Huey started laughing. That's his daddy. You know, he loved his daddy. So, you know, and but he was very, and he don't cross him, then there's a whole different person come out. You
Right.
know, I mean, one time I went up to his apartment, and I was in and out of there, and so the doorman just let me up. So I knocked on the door and Huey opened the door. He had a pistol in his hand. And he asked me how did I get up there. I said, well, the doorman know me. He just told me to go on up. So he told me don't never do that again. He said always call up so we know, you know, who's coming. But he wasn't upset. He just told me don't do that. So
Mm, that's real. That's real. That's real. Does anybody else have any other questions? Sister Soldier, Steady V, Eric. Okay,
Uh,
okay. You got one, Eric?
No, I do not. I was just answering the question. I do not.
Okay, okay, okay. Well, I can tell you, Bunchy, we definitely appreciate you very much. So for having this dialogue with us. This kind of really starts our Black August celebration out a little bit early. In addition to it, I know that that we've worked hard as a organization, and I'm speaking in terms of community movement builders, which everybody on this call is a part of community movement builders to rename College Park in honor of Fahim J. Minka. And so we look forward, if time permits or the availability permits, that whenever the celebration happens, where they actually do, go through the process, that if you're able to physically come, we would definitely appreciate
yeah,
that.
well, I'll definitely be there. I'll definitely be there. And I just
Yep.
want to say the same thing I tell most young folks. Uh, the thing about it is, everywhere I go when I run into young people, people tell me, "Yeah, I appreciate everything you did, everything you do, and stuff." In fact, I mean, one time we at the 50th anniversary of the breakfast program, we had a program in Defenry Park, and part of the park is named after Little Bobby Hutton. It's called Little Bobby Hutton Grove, and I mean, we served about 400 people breakfast that morning, and then we had a panel discussion at the West Oakland Library, and uh, and this young lady came up and she told me she was from Alabama and she was going to school at uh, UC Berkeley, University of California, Berkeley. And she thanked me, and then she started crying. I mean, tears was rolling down her eyes, and she
Mm,
damn near had me crying, you know. But like I told her, and like I told y'all, I appreciate y'all also because if it wasn't for young folk carrying on the torch, everything we did, all the dying, going to prison, all that stuff would have been for nothing.
mm,
So I appreciate all y'all also.
mm. Yeah, most definitely, most definitely. Well, we appreciate you. I'm gonna go ahead and um, end it here, and I'm gonna say peace, power, and prosperity. Again, if you can do me a big favor, like, share, subscribe to my channel. We're just trying to get the message out. We appreciate Comrade Bunchy for sharing his life information, his personal life, uh, his political stances, and also his experiences. This is something that we want to keep documenting and move forward and continue to learn from. So we definitely appreciate you for doing that. So
Yeah,
peace, power, and
anytime y'all need me, just let me know.
all right, peace, power, and prosperity.
All right, all power to people.